Good morning, everyone. Welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Tex Homer. I'm joined by Joe Cook and Coach Dub. No Eric today. He's in Tahoe. He's probably skiing right now, having a great time, actually, and living his life. So we're going to hang out, and we're actually going to talk about the depth chart. We're not 100% finished. We know the portal technicalities, right? But we can still talk about pretty easily what we like about the roster so far. But I want to see you guys over on Inside Texas right now. 50% off the Ultimate Fan Bundle. Inside Texas, our website on 3 national football news and, of course, Rivals for all your recruiting needs. All right, gentlemen. Joe, explain the portal. It closed, but then there's MLK and so just let's get that part out of the way.
Okay, so as best I know, and this is all seems to change every year, you had to go to the compliance department by 11:59 on Friday night. That compliance department has 48 business hours to put your name in there. So until the dust fully settles on Thursday morning, we're going to be, we're not really expecting any more people to jump in from Texas, but we're going to be watching for it. Today, obviously MLK Day, national holiday, so not business hours for the working world. I think you might still see somebody pop up in there because people work on MLK Day. People work on bank holidays, but a compliance department, if they are hit with that deadline, they don't have to go do it today. They have Tuesday and Wednesday to get it done. So at this point, you're just kind of waiting to see if you get a Hayes Fawcett notification or notification from us. And, at that juncture, then Texas has to start evaluating and figure out what they want to get from who's available.
Yep. And then, of course, Miami, Indiana are going to play this evening, and they have a technical window that opens just for those two.
Right. And I don't know the exact days on it, but I think it's only 5 or 6 days, something like that. Not long.
Cool. And, of course, we still have some positions we've talked about. Let's talk about what we added yesterday in linebacker Marcus Boswell. So I watched his all-22 this morning versus UAB as well, but Coach did a good eval yesterday, so I'm going to let him lead the conversation. I might add some things in, but who knows?
Yeah. Just watched some film, what I was able to watch, what he did at Akron, and I kind of combined that with what he did in high school. Look, he's a very active linebacker, right? He's not so much Justin Cry from Florida State, the transfer we got, but he kind of reminds me of him. Not somebody I probably would want in space, but if I want to go downhill, short yardage situations, goal line, stuff to run, I think that's Boswell. I think he's not afraid to mix up. He has the size for it, too. He's up to 230 pounds, so he may get a little bigger than that. A hometown kid, too, so he probably will play with the pride of Texas on his back, right? And so you can never kind of account for that. You think Michael Tech, think a lot of others. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh. One thing I'm curious about, Coach, is he went to Lake Travis, and he goes to this Jure Prep in North Carolina. That's not super common with football. I mean, sometimes you see it with basketball players. So what leads a player to maybe go to that type of prep school?
You don't have the offers coming out of high school that you want, right? You're looking for more exposure. You don't lose any eligibility going to a prep school either, right? So I know some kids, it's starting to pick up. It's really common on the East Coast, but a lot of Texas kids are starting to do that instead of going to junior college and getting that clock ticking. So you can kind of go to prep school, get some good film on tape, and then, maybe a school will recruit you out of prep school, like I said, and you won't lose any eligibility. So, and that's the case with him. It really, really helped, right? He got him a Division I scholarship to Akron, and he's able to parlay it into coming to Texas. So, I mean, kudos to him for doing that. It's a long route to go, right? Because you go to prep schools, there's no scholarship. You're pretty much paying out of pocket for that opportunity to make it to the next level. And so you're starting to see a lot more kids do that just so they can get the exposure without losing eligibility or going to a junior college. And so for him to be able to do that, it shows that you got to have to work ethic because it's hard to make it out. So you're out there on your own, right? And we saw the struggle. We saw what's the Netflix show with the junior college?
All
what is
American?
it called?
Last Chance U.
Last Chance U. It's pretty much that. It is hard to make it out of there. So you take somebody who had their back against the wall to make it to Texas where they're at now. They actually put the work in to get here, right? It wasn't just handed to them. And so you love that. And it kind of shows up on film. Like I said, he's a very active linebacker. He's not afraid to stick his head in there, blitz the quarterback. Kind of got his hands on the interception that was popped up in the air, but
it hit him in the chest.
Yeah, he's around the football though, right? Is what you can ask for. Yeah. He has, with the new ruling, I guess he'll still have 4 years left, right? Because then you get 5 years to play 5. I don't know if that's been approved, but if he does, you got a guy you can develop, and he won't mind mixing up on the team. So that's kind of what I saw in film from him.
Yeah, forward mover too. So also, plugging, but pass rush, right? So he has that kind of stuff. He got lined up against the edge on UAB a few times. I was worried if he was going to be at that 230, and then I watched his tape. He's put on some serious weight, so I think he has the size there.
One thing we'll get to is like that room straight up needed numbers. Like they were oh man, yeah, whatever. Brady Sarkisian was going to be a little bit more important than he should have been had they not put the numbers at the right level. So they definitely, no matter what, they needed to add just players in general, and this helps with that. And that's the floor. Let's see what the ceiling is.
Yeah. Did anyone go to Texas? Yeah, class of 15. What were you, Joe?
16.
You were 16. Wow, I didn't know I'm older than you. Had no idea, dude.
Yeah. I used to be the young spring chicken, and then I still am. Although we've got Evan.
We brought Evan in,
and apparently I have like a couple months on Nash. So
yeah. All righty, let's talk through the roster. This is by our Evan Veith, and everyone can kind of squint to see it. And then I'll have it pulled up on my side so I can talk you guys through it a little bit easier. But this is organized by years of eligibility. And this is as recent as the 17th. I added Boswell here in the 3 years column because I don't know if that's been approved yet, the eligibility discussion. But this is just a way for us to we'll look position by position and just kind of give our thoughts on the players, what we think we filled, what we think we still would have questions about, all of that kind of stuff. Let's start with quarterback. I'm going to say Arch Manning is going to get the start this year. And then we got to see if we get, through the spring or whatever, some future GA can come in at the position. Just older, solid, good culture, all that kind of stuff, just as a stopgap potentially, because you see it's Lacey and Bell, who are two talents, right? But younger. So first thoughts on quarterback, but truly probably the actual depth at quarterback.
It's gonna be a battle right now, teaser. Yeah, I was teasing, but no,
it's open. It's wide open.
It's wide open. Yeah, let's get the ratings going. You got Arch Manning come back, which could be his final year. I thought they would bring in a veteran, like you just said, just someone to kind of a bridge gap guy, kind of like we just had with Caldwell. I don't know, who's out there right now in the portal. I'm sure there's a guy out there who, like I said, he doesn't mind coming in, helping out the room, and knowing going to be a future GA or a coach or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Maybe we get lucky again and get another Caldwell who can come in and if needed,
win a game.
Win a game. No, get the Jason Garrett model going. But we'll see if they add, a veteran guy to it. I would like for them to, just because young quarterbacks, you don't want to stick them out there too early if you don't have to. But if a KJ Lacey is ready, in year two to be that backup guy, then so be it. Or if Diabell surpasses him, you never know. I just want to see the guys compete and see, who earns the backup spot if we don't bring another guy in.
Well, one thing that we've learned is that Sark likes having four quarterbacks. Some of that's, game day related. Some of that's practice and roster related. But he also, likes, like you mentioned, having that experienced guy. And I think quarterback's one of those positions where everybody's like, oh, you're playing right away or you leave or you're money hungry or that type of thing. Like quarterbacks are, because there's only one on the field, it's kind of viewed as and rightfully so, and I don't say this in a bad way, a selfish position. Like you want to go get snaps. There are still players like Caldwell who he played at Mercer, Gardner-Webb, and Troy, I think, something like that. Well, being at Texas is a lot different than all three of those schools. And there's still value to people, to a lot of different quarterbacks, just to do that. Maybe they get an opportunity, and then boom, you're in a Steve Sarkisian system. Maybe NCAA does something crazy, you get an extra year. Like there is value even for players who are like, I want to play. Like just to come to Texas, to be in that quarterback room, to have that experience, and then to, be able to get an opportunity to play, wear burnt orange.
Yeah. And also too, it's like, so if it's preseason and we're up by 60, I want to see Lacey and Bell, right? But if Arch goes down for a play in the middle of the season, we're not expecting it, I want to see older quarterback come out and give a handoff, right? Like, so there's different situations in which you would see him. I don't necessarily want to see the older quarterback when we're winning by 60. I want to see the youth. But if it comes at an inopportune time, as with a Caldwell or something like that, that's where I think you can see the difference there. But that's looking like it'll come throughout the season or after.
The one other thing is, KJ Lacey, his experience right now is a few handoffs. Dia Bell missed pretty much all of his senior season with an undisclosed injury. And I'm big on you get better at playing football, or you get better at football by playing football. That's why he dropped in some of the rankings, and justifiably so, in my opinion. Still really highly ranked. But, if that's your third quarterback, that's someone who hasn't really played full competitive football in over a year. So it makes sense to try to get a buffer and then let Dia be the scout team guy, be someone who's getting reps playing against the Texas defense and doing good things for Texas as he gets ready for next season.
Well, also, if you're going to be out for the season prior, I mean, I bet he has that playbook figured out far quicker than a normal quarterback would too. He had a year to study this. So that part is actually nice.
And he transferred high schools. Like, he was at American Heritage, which is I didn't know this, private school football powerhouse. I didn't know it was private. And I think he transferred to a different school to finish things up when I think football was out of the mix. So at least playing it. So yeah, he had time, and he's going to be a kid. He's gets to watch his brother play hoops too. If you see Dia tweet a lot of it is, I think it's Ty Bell, and his basketball highlights. But now he's on the 40 acres and time for him to get going.
Man, they were freaking me out. They were showing the players on the scooters, dude.
I know. David Hamilton.
Those are high risk, dude. I mean, I get it. You want to have fresh legs, right? I don't want you burnt out because you walk 3 miles across campus every day. Trust me, I can relate. But also, those scooters are sketchy, dude.
Yeah.
You get those cabs.
I'd have it in their NIL contracts. I'd just be like, no, you can't alpine ski. You cannot ride the Lime scooters. There's
That's dangerous.
They're high risk, dude. Who would be y'all's most exciting player to watch? I'm a big Biles guy right now. I really love Rasheem Biles. That's my favorite pickup so far, even amongst really, really great pickups. So my most exciting player are really, because he is exciting if you watch the plays he makes, but he's the most exciting piece to me to add to that room. We'll get to that room, but just quick off the top of your head, guys, any players that stick out?
You stole a good one there, man, because that dude's special. Like, just watch, like you said, watch this film, he's special. Yeah. But since you chose him, I guess I'll go offense, and I'll combine it too. I want to see Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers just in the offense and see what they do. I can't wait for those guys. Like,
you left Joe Cam.
Yeah, man, they're ready. I can't wait to see what they do.
Cam Coleman, I don't know how much more I need to say on that one.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. But yeah, Rasheem is my guy. Watching that tape, I was like, ooh, man.
Yeah.
He's going to be good for the NFL draft too. Okay, so it was a good lead-in, coach, accidentally. Running back room, Raleek Brown, Hollywood Smothers, the return of explosive backs that when the gaps are open, we can do that. But also, they have two different styles in which they accumulate their explosivity, right? So Raleek Brown is more of a breakaway runner, meaning that he doesn't get touched and gets away. Hollywood Smothers has much more yak in him than you realize. When you watch his tape, and there's two reasons why a smaller guy can generate that. First off, they're running very fast. So no matter who they hit, just the force mass times acceleration, they have good acceleration. Even though the mass is low, the force equals out, and he'll bump off that guy and still get a couple yards. That's important. So you get explosivity, but in kind of two different ways. And of course, Smothers can break away, but that's how most of these guys, that's the difference in how they get their explosive plays. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Look, I agree with you. I think when we see outside zone ran this year with these guys, or even inside zone, like they can find the cutback lane and find hit the crease and go. I think that's where they're going to be so much dangerous. But then you put them in the backfield together in 21 personnel. Like, if you want to run some rocket motion, any kind of motion, boomerang, all the things that Sark loves to do that you can do with these guys, you never know who's getting the ball. So you can run counter, you can set up fake counter and throw the quick halfback screen or swing route, and they can take it to the house. Like, if you get numbers, You get a linebacker matched up on them or somebody, just one guy in space, man, they can do so much. And so they just changed the game for this offense from the running back position, man, because at any given moment, they can take it to the house, right? And all they need is one little crease to go and make a guy miss. Like you always talked about, if the play designed for 5 or 6, we would get 5 or 6 last year. This time we may get 50 or 60 off of it, right? At any given moment. So the runs we saw versus like A&M and Texas A&M, I mean, against OU and A&M last year with Trey Wiseman, we may get those more frequent against everybody with these two guys.
The first two words you said were the important ones, outside zone. I think we can look at this personnel, and even with the, I don't want to say questions, but gaps they have on the interior of the offensive line right now. You look at Gooseby, you look at Siani, you look at Brandon Baker, and then you can even look at Connor Robertson. And if you wanted to project a little bit, and I'm not trying to take over the conversation quite yet, but it's an outside zone looking team. And maybe that's an idea and a good thing for Texas. Instead of being an inch deep and a mile wide, they can actually major in a run scheme that we know that they like in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going for quicker feet, right? So the outside zone looks good there. So really excited about the running back additions, both of them. And even our explosive plays versus A&M, they would be 40 yards, but they would be a touchdown with these guys. So it's even when you saw the explosives, they would still go. All right, let's look at some of our depth here. James Simon, a player that I'm still really intrigued by, and I think is probably the most well-rounded projection of running back. So any thoughts on Simon first off, gentlemen?
No, I like the young Simon. I like what he can be. I think just another year in the program development. I think he's gonna be good, man. I think he's that solid overall. You know, he kind of reminds me of just some former running backs we've had in the past. Like, you know, you look at your bigger, not so much bigger, but it looks like just a well-rounded running back. Your Malcolm Browns, even though he's not as big as Malcolm Brown was, right? He just kind of reminds me of that steady back. He's one of those guys that the more carries he gets, I think he will get better. Get kind of a downhill guy, but I think he can do some stuff on outside zone too. I think he's just overall balanced running back. Not a burner, but not a power guy either.
Yeah. The thing that is most important for me at this spot, and then you could kind of even argue it's like 6.5 or 6.0 maybe with how you want to do Ryan Niblett, but you just have the right numbers. You hope you don't have to tap deep into those numbers and start putting a red shirt or a true freshman out there. But you do have the right numbers. You have a 1-2 punch in Brown and Smothers. You have guys with some experience in Niblett and Simon. You got a guy who's been in college football, and then you got the talented freshman. And there always seems like there's a little bit of room for talented freshman running backs in Sark's offense. They don't ask them to do a bunch of pass pro stuff. That's fine. It's a little bit of a tell. But you know, that's football. You can throw those guys out in the flat and not have them have to worry about blocking as much. So I just like it from the way the room looks. You have the right numbers. We know how important that is. And you know, I do think you might see some opportunities for Derek Cooper next year, especially now that Christian Clark is a South Carolina Gamecock.
Yeah.
Well, and pass pro is still my biggest question, right? Because Brown and Smothers are not pass blockers. And as far as Smothers, he was never in pass protection. They send him into the flats every single time. So that's what leads me to believe this is going to be more a 12 personnel team. And you're going to get your pass protection from one of those guys.
Did CJ Bailey run? I didn't watch much North Carolina State football. So how much of a run threat was their quarterback?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I'm going to venture not that much, but he was good. Supposed to be really good this past year.
I was keyed in on Smothers, and I was like, "What's he doing in pass protection?" And that's a tell too, right, Coach? If the coach never asks you to be in on pass protection, that's normally a theme. And I thought that was a weakness of the Sark scheme or how he played his scheme earlier in the year. There was nothing in the flats. It was Arch had to go for everything downfield.
Right.
Ooh, okay. He had CJ Bailey. It's a big deal that he stayed at North Carolina State because he's got some good numbers. I don't know how that informs Smothers. Maybe, you know, symbiotic relationship, that type of thing. But they didn't have a Jag back there playing quarterback for NC State, nor protecting him. That's weird how that team just can't get 10 wins.
Yeah. Well, that's my big thing is like, do we take, and it doesn't look like it now, but we'll see. But I was like, well, do we take some FCS guy that has 9 years of experience? And of course, it's a little bit of a tell when he's in, but whatever, as long as you can execute, that's great. So my big question for this room still is pass blocking, but there are other ways around it, 12 personnel, or if the backs are so dangerous getting out to the flats anyways, and Arch can make that decision quickly, you can neutralize some of that. But we would be remiss to not Michael Terry. There's always a player that like captivates the fans' imagination every year. And Michael Terry clearly is it this year. I get asked about him all the time. To me, it's not as intriguing. I don't know, because it's just his position is not crystallized.
Right.
So if you guys have any thoughts on Michael Terry, I really don't. Just like hope we see him, hope he does well, but I really don't think about him that often.
It's hard for an athlete sometimes. Like if you don't have an offense that's really designed for athletes, like so to speak, like everybody has a position in Texas. Either a running back, you're a receiver. Like, we've seen Nibley, he's an athlete, right? But they're still trying to find him a home, right? And I don't feel like Terry has a home yet. Yeah, he's going to be in the running back room. If he gets a chance, I don't know. You want to put him in a game and see how he does running the football, but you also want to get him in space because he can catch the ball well. But how many opportunities will you really get being an athlete in this offense? It's really, really hard. And how many people, not just Texas, have figured out how to use athletes besides Urban Meyer, right? When he had Percy Harvin and guys like him. Like, not many people use athletes like, you think you would. And so, I mean, they're nice to have. Somebody just mentioned Ramon Taylor. Like, even now, he switched back and forth, but he was really, really good, right, at receiver and running back. But it's really hard. Terry's kind of stuck in the middle, man. It's like neutral. I don't know what room you put him in. Where can he excel? He needs to find one and kind of hone in on those skills.
Exactly.
If that's receiver, if that's H-back, I don't know, something like that, and take over that role. But it's kind of hard being an athlete.
Yeah, he's got to get experience. He can't keep bumping around, or else he's going to stay in limbo.
Yeah. He should call Rashawn Johnson and be like, how do I become a good running back after doing everything for my high school?
Yeah. Yeah. So that, and then quick, Derek Cooper. Eric's mentioned that he's going to get some run this next year. Fun player, exciting player. What does he look like learning the nuances of running back? We know he has explosivity. We know he's a fun runner. He runs with like this punching arm. So excited for him, young. I think the future is bright for him. I think we'll see him a little bit to get him ingratiated. But overall, it's a Smothers and Brown show, it's looking like. And then shout out Jet Walker, dude.
There you go.
All right. Before we keep going, we're going to hit wide receiver next. But first,
fast one.
Same day delivery powered by DoorDash.
All righty, y'all. Wide receiver. Make sure I'm good with these comments. Let me see. Okay. Question here. In this new portal NIL era, how or will Texas get the younger players in the field on the field faster? Bigger leads, so depth players play earlier more often, S&C adjustments, shortening development curves, all of that.
Ooh,
The first thing is Sark needs to, I've already argued this, Sark needs to quit the NFL style scoring, and because it hurts preseason depth. And so remember when he made that little slide at Mario Cristobal? He's like, guess we're just going to run up score at the end of the season. And then Mario clapped back. Well, guess what? Miami's in the national championship right now. And so that PR was really valuable because the people evaluating this are not going to look at the nuance of like, well, if you really pay attention in the second drive of the third quarter, Texas made a total shift to run the ball again. They're not doing that. They're going to see they put up 30. So Sark needs to get that out of his mind, and using that as a slight, get that out of your mind. But second off, run up score in the preseason. I know he likes to tinker. I disagree with it. Run up score so you can get these depths, especially because these players in the new era will leave or try to jack rates. That's a good way to get your depth going early.
And another thing about, Indiana, granted, maybe this is just their quality of team, but they don't let off the gas. They score like 60 points and stuff like that. Like they don't stop. And look, you don't want to be, what's the way of doing this? You like to have people who may do you favors. Like, how do we think the Akron linebacker kind of shows up in Austin? Yeah, there's the Lake Travis connection, but somebody probably told Sark, like, hey, you should look at this guy. He's got this. There's value to not being the jerk at the office, but that's not why he's getting paid. As far as the question goes, though, I mean, like we just went through this whole off-season 3-week period where our main talking point has been like you can't pay people to sit on the bench. And so maybe that adjusts their NIL strategy. But like I think it's always going to be if you are deserving of being on the field, you could make $0, you can make $1 million. You're going to get on there. If you're not deserving, I think there's going to be some, maybe some qualifications made, but coaches know that you can lose a lot of built up, I don't want to say, equity in your locker room, but like the players know who's playing for good reason and not for good reason. So I think you have to consider it, but like I don't think football has changed so much to where it's not enough of a meritocracy to where off-field things are making the big decisions.
That's a good point. I was going to say, like, why not players get back to, if somebody's ahead of me on a depth chart, like everybody has to see me. Like, I know we're teammates, but when we're competing, we're practicing and all that, everybody has to see me on the field. I don't care if you're a teammate or not. If I'm on scout team, I'm blowing up the first team offense. Like, everybody has to know my name. Coaches got to kick me out of practice because I'm going to go that hard, right, to prove that I deserve to be on the field. No matter if I'm getting paid the least amount or the most, it doesn't matter to me. I think the thing with that is if you get a guy who, starts coming up the ranks, then he's probably going to want money because now he's playing, but you got to kind of balance that out. But, man, I like kids. Kids got to get back to competing and saying, you know what, I don't care where I'm at on this depth chart. I'm banging pads, and I'm coming at you every single day to work.
This isn't meant to be a slight, but, like, Jaron Thompson was the starting safety in 2023. I don't know how much he made. He probably made a little bit. The NIL has exploded since then. But Jaron Thompson was a starting safety. That was not a great Texas pass defense, but that pass defense was better when Michael Taft was on the field. I think he had been put on scholarship. Who knows what his NIL and everything but you think that the players and everybody, you won't find anybody who will say a bad thing about Jaron Thompson. And he went to Auburn. He got the most out of football. But you think players wouldn't have noticed, like, hey, why is Jaron Thompson still playing when, like, this Michael Taft guy is a little bit better? Or why is he starting over Taft? Like, people are going to know within the room what the right thing is. And I think
they know even more because they see practice.
Yeah. Like that part of football society can evolve, but inside the white lines, it's the better. It's pretty clear who should be doing things, and if opposite decisions are made, then that can create some problems.
Yeah, I think the real answer is the new wave is you sign your class either of lower caliber, and then you try to go heavy in portal. Or you do the stack and shed, like a football term. You sign a bunch of guys, and then we just saw this, by the way. And then after year one, if they don't think that you have impact, then you got to go. I think that's the unfortunate reality of it. Unless you're just very, very special and they know that you're going to be able to do it, or you were able to break through year one, I think it's going to be really dangerous for the middle class of football players. And middle class of football players are good enough to go start or potentially start at other schools too. So it's going to be a learning. So I really just think you're going to see the elite end up sticking around and getting paid. And then the middle class gets picked off by all the other schools, rev share. And then the lower class might stick around because they don't have other options. But I think you're just going to see the destruction of middle class football. And you're just going to see the portal is the unfortunate answer.
Yeah.
Tulane got good living that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that seems like where it's going. Like, it's like, what have you done for me lately after year one? And if you're expensive and haven't done anything for me, then I'm gonna let you go to X school. All right, wide receiver. There's a lot of guys here. We're already 30 minutes in. We'll move faster on these positions. All right, wide receiver. Ryan Wingo returns. Great, love it. Mosley returns. Great, love it. Cam Coleman, love it. Niblett, still got to figure out how to really deploy him away from special teams. We kind of struggle with that. Niblett's been more impactful in the return than he has in offense. But just quick thoughts, gentlemen, on the 2 years of eligibility guys we have coming back. It's a good group.
You say 2 years, and hopefully on paper it's 2 years, but
paper, right?
We might see them in the combine this time. Getting ready for combine this time next year. But I mean, I love it on paper. I just can't wait to see how it actually gels together. I know they're probably already working hey, look, getting some reps in because it's going to be needed. Let's get everybody up to speed. Let's get going. But I like the way the room looks on paper.
So do I.
We know Niblett is almost independent of this kind of classification. Like they put him on the field, and he gets some slot time too, but they have him as a move piece. So we can kind of look. It's Wingo, Mosley, Coleman, probably McCutcheon. The question is there anybody good enough to make Steve Sarkisian's wide receiver rotation bigger? I think that's the real – I mean, of course, Arch getting with Wingo and Mosley and Coleman and building rapport hugely important. But I think another interesting storyline is there anybody in that 4-year category good enough to make Steve Sarkisian expand his rotation? And
I think of it like this in some projection. So Wingo's like your move receiver, like your Z. And then behind him, you might look at Jermaine Bishop, right? And then you have Emmett Mosley at the slot, Dalen McCutcheon behind him. Then you have Cam at the boundary with Khalil Lockett behind him. So those are kind of like the skill sets, I think. That's my too deep in my head right now.
Right.
We just have to see with Bishop, incredible athlete. How quick does he pick it up? Or how simplified do we make him whenever he is in the field, right?
I'm just about to say, just give Bishop a few touches. He may, let him play and see what he does during the spring and fall camp. But if he earns like, hey, look, he needs a role. He needs to touch the ball at least 5 times a game type or put him in a game, then, hey, let it be.
But I think Khalil Lockett, man, I've loved him out of high school. He was my favorite grab of that group because he's a downfield receiver. He has incredible body control. He's great hands. He can go up and get it. His tracking, you saw it on the fade. To me, Khalil is the perfect guy behind Cam to learn behind Cam and then take over. So I feel good about this room, both as the frontline starters and as well as our depth. I think it's exciting. So this room to me is very solid, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, tight end. So this is very funny. So I've been begging for a blocking tight end, and then we get one. And this is the year where I was like, well, we don't really have like a slot tight end. So it's like they do it like right when it switches. So there's a part of me that's and they'll say Townsend. Townsend's more in that H-back role. It's a guy that can slip out. If you put him in line as a decoy, he can go out. But I mean like a true slot that lines up and runs routes. We don't really have that apparent yet. Maybe it comes with a younger player like a Winston. But Masunis can block. Really excited about that. That's a good addition. Spencer Shannon had a really good game versus Michigan, watching him on all 22. So I think he's kind of figuring out that Y inline tight end. So I think we have some blocking there. Will Randall, shout out. Enjoy your time on campus, brother. And then Nick Townsend, H-back mover. Winston, potentially more of that slot style. We've heard he's smart and can settle in zones and all of that. So thoughts on the global tight ends?
Yeah, you got exactly what you wanted. You got some blocking guys who don't mind getting after it, right? So if we go 12 personnel, maybe we're able to run downhill a little more. Or Masunas can kind of be that H-back, not H-back, the guy that's that extra protector behind the line of scrimmage when somebody wants to show like double mug. He can not be on the line, but kind of be like the fullback up there. So I mean, you got some pieces that you can move with. I'm excited to see what they do with the tight end room. I love Townsend a lot, but I love Winston too, man. I can't wait. Let's see these young guys kind of blossom into a role, whatever the offense, however it may evolve this season.
Yeah. Everybody with injuries, and then with Jack injuries, and then with kind of the rotation at tight end, everybody was looking at this room in the 2025 season thinking like it's good, but it has a chance to be great. And injuries going to the NFL kind of dings that a little bit, but when you have the offense they want to run, which features 12 personnel and zone running, and you have a tight end like Masunis, like that is a piece that really helps you run that offense. You can have a 6-man protection and he's not out of place. Like he can go catch a 10-yard pass and turn it into 12 yards. Like he can be the guy that creates that extra gap in the run game. And he's an actual tight end. He's not an offensive lineman like Texas has had in years past. Like this is a very important piece. I think that I'm a little bit more optimistic about what Townsend could do as the H tight end, just because if they're trusting him with those types of handoffs like he got in the A&M game, and granted that could be a little bit of freshman pandering because he did a lot of dirty work and grunt work throughout the season without much of a touch reward. If they trust him with that and are like, okay, let's get him, like I feel like he'll be able to do what's necessary down the field as a receiver to make that 1-2
Well,
punch
and
work well.
some of it's not that sophisticated in route running. Like it's like, dude, you're running the seam, so it's like I don't need you to square someone up and so some of it is easier too. It's just like just run up the middle, dude. So I love Townsend, and it's just what we're talking about of like clear projections you can see in your head type of thing. But heavy metal, dude he did everything he asked for. Mental eval is triple check on him. So excited about that. And then Winston, we've heard that he settles in zone well. He understands the scheme well. He's a smart receiver whenever he goes out. So this room is intriguing, and it's a 12 personnel team that can actually block, which is we haven't had so far. So that's big. All right, offensive line, I'm sure will not be controversial, but luckily we get to start with OT, which is at least the least controversial portion of this. So we get Gooseby, Baker. Baker could move to guard. We'll see. If he moves to guard, then that's screaming outside zone because you're getting tackle athleticism and movement in space. Then you bring in Siani, who is a player that I was really excited for when I was doing the evaluation. I thought as far as approximating on-field production with a Seton, he did that. Now, Seton is going to be a early round draft pick, wow player. But the problem with Seton is he moved and looked great, but he didn't do that much in the run game. Like he would run and not hit anybody, and you'd be like, wow, he looks good when he runs, but these aren't track stars. And so Siani had all of the, not the physical traits of Seton, but the on-field production of Seton. And so I think that's a wiser financial choice too, if you want to money ball it. So I was happy with Siani's addition, and his production improved when he went from, was he at Temple or
yes,
Temple away? It actually improved. So I thought that was a really actually sound move from the coaching staff. So what about those first three tackles, guys?
If you want to run outside zone with those, you can do it with those three guys. Siani can move, man. I saw him pull a bunch, kind of get out in front. And look, I don't think he's been playing football that long, right? I don't know when he came to America. I know he's originally from Canada or
he's a Canadian.
Like a lot of those guys hadn't played football long, right? But they probably got a soccer background, which means they got great feet and a lot of other things going for them athletic wise. So I think from him, I like his upside. I think his best football is ahead of him, honestly. Technique stuff, I think he gets his head too far in the block sometimes, can't latch. He gets attached and can't latch off and see the second level that well sometimes. But I think that's come with experience and more reps he gets playing offense line. I think he's going to be good. But what you can't account for is his athleticism, man. Like seeing that kid move for a guy his size, like he's going to be a good one. And so, man, let these boys battle it out and see who wins the tackle spot. If it's him, Brandon Baker, whoever doesn't, go to guard. Like I think that's what it is. But I just want my best five on the field. I don't care where it kind of come from, honestly.
Gooseby's the tackle. Brandon Baker has proven that he can play tackle, but he could probably play guard. Siani's a tackle. Everybody else on this list, at least at the tackle spot, you could probably throw him inside. Like, I don't know if I trust Andre Kojo's feet outside right now. I know he was competing with Baker. I don't know exactly how strong that competition was, but he was competing with Baker at tackle, and you can probably put him inside. He's a big kid. Jaden Chapman, I think, has actually repped up and down the line. And I think he would have been tackle 3 this past year. I think that would have been how it worked out. And I think he actually had a couple reps where he had to like run in real quick and Gooseby went back out. So that's an option. And then you look at the rest of them, Newman, Coleman, Turntine, Shearer. I mean, you could probably trust those guys on the interior a little bit this year, maybe. But you have them for tackle down the road. And tackles are hard to come by. That's why if you look at Miami, they have their 2 big dudes. I can't remember if one is not a transfer. Malioga is homegrown. I forget if the other one's a transfer, but like it's so worthwhile to recruit, develop, and land and hit with your trenches so you don't have to go pay for a premium position.
Yep. And then Gooseby's going to be out with the shoulder recovery. So I think it was Brandon Baker will take reps at left tackle. Mm-hmm. So we have to see what happens for the finishing off interior offensive line. There are guards we are still looking at. So to me personally, if Baker is going to play guard, I don't want him taking left tackle reps. I want him taking guard reps. But if we don't have a left tackle its replacement up, and then Colin Simmons is running all of our practices, then maybe you got to see. But there's clearly not a lot of great depth here. Tackles are stronger than interior, but if Baker goes inside, I want to see Baker play inside. I don't want him doing left tackle. And now he'll still end up being your swing tackle if, God forbid, Siani or Gooseby goes down in season, right? So, but man, I would really like to see us putting people in their positions for the season. But once again, I don't know for a fact that he's going to play guard. It's just a conversation that's been had.
How much do y'all think Brandon Baker is listed at weight-wise?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Texas had him at 308.
Okay, I was going to say
310. I think Cole Hudson was like 310-ish. And that doesn't really help things, I know, but just to provide a little bit of perspective on weights and stuff like that.
Cool. Oh. Now we look at interior offensive line. You can see it's thin here on the chart, and worryingly thin. And so, of course, you have some of the guys that Joe pointed out have inside ability. It could be a Baker, could it be a Kojo? But we have Connor Robertson returns at center. You're getting a guy that got significant starts last year. I like that actually for stability reasons and running the scheme. I like a center with a little bit of experience, especially if we're going to have a lot of movement and trying to secure. Sikorsky is a guy that I think needs more time to cook. So really, man, you need some guards. Like there's really no other way for me to put this. And it might be Texas takes one. I think that would be a mistake. I think Texas needs two. And but I mean, we're going to see. What do you guys think?
So looking on paper, it's thin, right? Of course. You never know how a guy's going to develop over the offseason. Like, I don't know what Devin Coleman's going to do this offseason, what he's going to look like going in the spring. Maybe he shows consistency. He's gotten a lot better. Like, that's what you hope for anyway, right? Some of your young guys can kind of say, hey, I can take this next step. The light bulb kind of came on, and now you don't have to go to the portal. Now, I don't want to risk it. I say still, if there's a guy out there, a veteran in the portal, you don't want to leave anything to chance. But it's tough. Looking at the room just on paper, you're expecting a jump from redshirt or freshman, just be ready. Even though Nicholas Robinson, who I think is severely underrated, is going to be an excellent player at Texas, because just seeing him compete at the Under Armour All-America game, and he's really, really good. He has a lot going for him. I mean, he's going to be young, right? They just have to take snaps, and it's a lot of grown men in the trenches, man, on the defense line that you face every day. So I think you need to go find some veteran help to kind of bridge those young guys along.
Yeah, and I saw what happened when we tried to look to our younger players last year. Texas has had one interior offensive lineman drafted or something like that. There was some number that's not our position of development. I can tell you that. So relying on development to solve this problem is something that is too hopeful for my taste there. And development a couple years down the road, sure, but I wouldn't say we're known for our brand of interior offensive line development. And so that's where I want to see this solved with solid players, multiple guards, because this was the biggest hole in the team, and we're in crunch time on this position. It doesn't make sense to me. All right. What is going on with O-line portal? We're looking at some guards. We have to wait for
it's the thing that we're trying to hammer home is that two different things. If they've had processes for all these different positions, they have a process at O-line, and you have to get the result from that process. Correct. But it's not like they're not running. It's not like that SpongeBob episode where they're burning all the files in his brain. They got stuff going on. The other thing is, like, because interior offensive line it's a premium need for Texas, but it's not a premium portal position. They're gonna have a lot of time to do a lot of evaluating, a lot of looking for guys, a lot of seeing what's out there. And you would maybe have liked to pull the all Big Ten guys, but they're gonna have opportunities to figure out what's best. And okay, that's a different game they're playing. You would have liked to hit the home runs, but if you can get some doubles, that's what you take.
Yeah. Did Seton sign somewhere already? No.
Don't think so.
Running around. Get the price up, brother. I'm not mad at you. All right. Before we keep going to the defense, and we'll move much more quickly through the defense, let's hear a word from Andre the Lawyer.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results: Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
Hayden Conner was drafted. Okay, so that's the one. If Campbell gets picked, that's proof enough concept to me. I mean, not really. We're going into year 6, and Campbell was a 5-star, so that's pretty much if he gets picked, it's a lot of that is traits based. So, no, I do not think 2 and 6 years is proof of concept of good interior offensive line development, especially when you have theoretical access to talent. All right, defensive tackle. Canu comes back. Excited about this one. I love that guy. He pops on tape. He's a fun in interviews. He's just an enjoyable player. Really excited to have him coming back. NFL upside there. Excited. January, another player excited about. Murad Watson gets a little bit better anchoring in the run game, but it's in the pass game, he does a great job. Geffrard, big body guy from Arkansas, your true nose style. Give me 30 reps and don't get moved. That stuff's solid. And then you bring in Zion, who was, close to picking Texas prior recruiting cycle. Follows Bo Davis, and Bo Davis does what Bo Davis does and gets up out of there. And so Zion Williams back on the 40. Guys, what do you think?
Oh, man, look, I love the way the defensive tackle room looks. It's a mix of veterans, but you got a lot of young guys that fit the body style of, what they want for this new defense. And so I like it, actually. I think you can bring along. I want to see Murad Watson kind of turn it on this year. From what he was as a freshman, I thought he was going to be, further along, but maybe, another offseason here at Texas. But, man, I like the way the room looks as far as depth. If you want to add one more, maybe, but I don't even see the need because you got 3 guys that, redshirted. Josiah Sharma, I think, is going to be a player. You got Myron Charles, and then you got James Johnson, who's extremely talented freshman. I think the room of defense tackle looks good. And, add on to it next year, but I think I like the way it looks now.
I think despite there being differences between what PK did and what Will Muschamp does, a lot of these guys, their fits overlap. They didn't have that true zero technique nose, and that's why they went to go grab some. But other than that, you got to fit for just about everything. You may be a little slim at that if they do that mint front stuff, that 4-eye. But you're not slim at defensive end who can fit in that spot. They're in good shape. They got a good pipeline. They're going to have you would have liked to have gotten a few more players in this 2026 class because you lose Corey Wells and the guy who went to who's from Alabama, Vodney Cleveland. You only end up with James Johnson in that class. So, all right, you're riding the portal train again at defensive tackle. Once you get on, you can't get off. But at this point, lots of good pieces, lots of things to be excited about, and players that you can look at and say, okay, Will Muschamp can do what he wants to do on the defensive line here in year 1.
I think Baker's done a great job coaching this room. I really like these guys. I like how they play. I like their versatility. And even for 4-eye, some of these guys can play a big 4-eye too. They have the athleticism to do that. So I just been really impressed with what Baker's done with this room and the guys in it. Whenever I turn on the tape, I almost am never going to cuss the defensive tackle play. And that's really solid. Coach, any quick thoughts there? You already hit. Josiah Sharma was a good point. I think he'll be your future nose. All right. Yeah. Brad Spence. So Brad Spence is interesting because, and I'll harp on it in a second, what I think about linebacker. I've been doing a real good job of that, campaigning on that. But Brad Spence has potential to go back to Mike, potentially. So we'll talk about that. Colin Simmons, good football player. Vossick,
really? You sure?
I think if you project, you think he'll be pretty good this year. Colin Simmons, and then you keep Vossick in the boat, which I think is a good grab. Lance Jackson, that's my dog since he came out of high school. I think he's awesome. I think he can play the outside pass rushing version. I think he can hold up on strong side versus the run. I think he'll be a perfect 4-eye type. I really, really love that. And then the exciting part of keeping Zena, I thought that was a really important one. Zena and Barnes were the ones that I was like, don't want to lose those guys. So you do keep Zena, which is good. And then Justice Terry, future is bright there. Gentlemen.
Yeah, look at the edge room. You just talk about some guys who can play 4i. Like, I don't know how much weight Zena's going to, gain or Lance Jackson's going to gain, but they can play the 4i too, right? So they're not have to be a true edge or a 5 or 7 tech. You got some bodies you can move around. I know they were looking maybe for one more edge, I guess, going the other side of Colin if you want to get in a true pass rush situation. But you look at Justice Terry, I think it's, the light bulbs came off him. We saw him play. You got some young guys, in Carlton and Wesley in the Rogue Bowl. I don't know if they'll, be ready to play as much, but I mean, you can do some things with if you can combine a defensive tackle room and the edge room together, however you want to mix fronts. I think you got enough versatility to make things work. And the fact that Brad Spence can play Mike and edge helps out as well. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, what the room looks like once they put it on paper, what the 2 deep looks like.
No.
We know that they've been trying to figure out if they need another edge. They've brought in or they've pursued. I don't know how many have actually made it to campus for a visit. Yeah. And you're kind of thinking, okay, why is that the decision they're coming to? We'll see what they do with Brad Spence. That's part of it. And then we also have to see what happens with Richard Wesley and Jamarian Carlton. Like, we heard Sark talk at that signing day press conference that was a month and a half ago that Richard Wesley's like 16. Remember, he reclassified into this class. So who knows where his body takes him. And Charlie, like Jamarian Carlton is looking a lot bigger now. Like I think everybody was a little bit skeptical of the Taquan Graham comparisons. And then it's like, okay, like actually it's looking a little bit like that these days. So they may need to get those guys and fill the room. But like we've seen flashes from, aside from, the 2 true freshmen who are coming in, we've seen flashes from every player in this edge room.
I agree. It's an exciting room too. Yeah, I still don't really get the pursuit of edge. Like, it's great to have more edge, and maybe we do, but to me, it's not a need unless they're trying to fit a very specific role, like Joe said. But to me, I'm good with it. Maybe they want the 4i.
Do you remember the Homer video that you made right when PK was hired about how he hybridized Buck and Jack?
Yeah.
I think that's still going to be around some, but I think it's going to be less hybridized in the Will Muschamp defense, and so therefore you can kind of get some more traditional players at that role.
Yeah. So go check out, man. Go type in deep dive in Cam Coleman. We just did a film study on him last Thursday, but just quick notes version. He will alter the defensive structure, giving advantage to other wide receivers. He is an outlet as throw it in his general vicinity. That's really helpful for a quarterback. And how he was used at Auburn was horrific. He only was allowed to run 4 routes. They all were the same stem. So any smart DB could figure that out. So he's going to have much more potential in Sark's offense to run across the field and generate some yak. So that's the cliff notes on old Cam Coleman. All righty. Let's look at linebacker. I will get on my stump here. Rasheem Biles is a baller, and he's going to ball. And he's not going to be in a competition. He will be your starting will linebacker. He's elite. So that's the move. He's good in pass coverage. He has safety level coverage ability. He moves like a safety. We showed that on the film study. He can blitz the edge. He does that really well. And he tackles in the modern way of like he just shoots in there and gets you. It's not like a stand you up style, but he can do that as well. So that leaves the point of who's going to fill the mic. The Mike is going to play interior gaps more often than the Will in the Muschamp system, meaning that he's going to have to deal with guards climbing up to him more, having to hit backs head on, and these type of things. You would enjoy a bigger player. If you look at Georgia's mix over the past year, this Mike is generally 235. Okay. So the question is, well, will Cryer meet that role? He meets half of that role. So he's solid in coming downhill and hitting guys. He'll smack you. He doesn't have the foot speed for consistent coverage. So he would become an issue in the pass game. So he to me is depth at Mike. Connor, Ty Anthony Smith, dude. We saw his 2 interceptions. How is he not a starter? Well, by default, if you don't bring in a better linebacker, then he is your second best linebacker. So maybe he does start there. But, and I've heard people say, well, a 225-pound linebacker can work there. It can. It's on the low end. Ty Anthony Smith's not 225. He's 216. And if you watch the all 22, it's not the run game that he was doing well in. He was missing tackles. He wasn't reading well. He wasn't doing things at that position. So I know he got interceptions. I know that's exciting. But day-to-day linebackering stuff, that this is not a for sure thing yet. But if you don't bring someone in, then it looks like it will be a for sure thing, unless you bring Brad Spence, who does have the size at the position, did have Mike experience at Arkansas. But he, to me, also has some of the same issues in that he's a forward playing player. There's not a question that they wanted him at edge. What are the skill sets of edge, see ball, hit ball, dropping back in coverage for his size is not. So linebacker to me is you needed a starting Mike. It didn't make sense to lose LaFau's money. So you open that up. You don't have to pay Anthony Hill. He's going pro. And then you Bo Barnes, who's a future NFL Mike. If you're going to let those positions go, you needed to get a Biles and you needed to get a starting Mike, whether if it was experienced or trades. So I think there's a missing hole here at Mike, and I think we'll see that in the season. Of course, fans don't want to hear that, but I'll talk to you guys after next season about it. That's how I feel.
Hey, look, I'm a little bit like you. How you wanted a tight end who smash mouth? I wanted a Mike linebacker who's just smash mouth. Go get one from, I don't know, FCS school. I don't know if he can play and just come downhill and strike. You don't want your smaller athletic linebackers doing that much. It's going to weigh on them. They're not going to be so athletic by the third quarter because they're getting hit over and over, taking on linemen. It's not a fun job, and neither one, Ty Anthony Smith or Biles, are built for that. They're absolutely phenomenal players, but that's not what they do best. They kind of let them play in space and blitz off the edge and get in the pass coverage and stuff like that. That's where they excel at. But if you want them taking on blocks consistently, you don't have a guy on the roster. I know everybody's pointing at Tyler Atkinson, but he's a freshman. Like, it takes a while to get acclimated to the speed of the game and reading. You got false pulls. You don't know what gap you're supposed to have. You think you have a gap, and then you get out leveraged. Like, it's hard playing as a freshman playing linebacker. So asking him to do it, no matter how much, NIL, his 5-star ranking, all that, the videos and YouTube, like, he's great. He trains with DJ. Playing the game inside the white lines is hard as a freshman playing linebacker. So you don't have a guy. You have to go find one.
I've modified my Atkinson take. I've been saying, like, he has day one football athleticism. He may not be a day one linebacker. I feel like he might be a little bit more so for this defense. And now obviously needs, like Homer laid out, like, he's gonna hit the field. But I mean, there are a lot of this room has a lot of football players and maybe is short on linebackers. Like, Biles is a linebacker. I think we can say, I think Cryer is a linebacker. I don't know of what quality. The rest of the room's a lot of football players, really good football players, but you need really good linebackers. So I'm kind of curious as to how Will Muschamp gets him coached up and playing that defense in year one, because that is, until we see another addition somewhere, that's the gap, like you're mentioning. And college football rosters have gaps. You would think in the portal era at Texas, it's like, nope, you get to fill them all in. And typically you try to, but it's still college football and football in general, just to have some weak points, but they can address it. That's the thing we got to see.
Yeah. And then you don't think there's a chance Biles and Smith I do think there's a chance, but I think that's because they didn't bring in the guy starting. That's not proof that was the smartest decision or the most sound decision. So I do think there's a chance that Biles and Smith, but the problem is Smith and Biles are the same position. They're wills. So you're asking Smith, who's still learning the position, who is undersized, now to move to another position, which is the green dot of the defense, meaning that they're the smartest player calling stuff. Like, the Mike has to know the whole system. So you're asking Smith, who's good at the will spot because he has those traits, to play an entirely different position. So do I think he'll play it? Well, there's only 2 linebackers that really can. So therefore, but I think the depth has gotten more answered. They're missing the starting Mike. Yeah. And so that's the big thing. And then, of course, we talked Boswell up front. I think he's more depth currently. He's a young player too, but he has good size at 230. That was the first thing I checked was his weight.
Yeah.
Whenever he got there. Okay. Let's talk DBs. So corner is a position I feel great about corner. And I know people have asked some question. It's like, why? There's no question at corner. I'll take some questions at safety. I'll take some rough questions at safety. But corner, I'm like, Dude, these guys on tape when they were young, it's like they're putting in good reps. Roberson comes back. People don't like him because of special teams penalties. Roberson can play man, dude. Like he had some awesome reps. So I feel great about corner guys. What do you guys think?
Yeah, with
go ahead, Joe.
Masco, Black, Littleton, Phillips off the top, and Roberson, Mack, Matthews, Howard. Like, yeah, you're not going to play 6 cornerbacks, but if you play 4, like you're in great shape. And we have, if you can see that, Cunningham's at cornerback because that's where we put Star classification wise, and that's where he's been. So that's why he's listed there, and maybe that's a place way he tries to find his way on the field. But like that top 4 is phenomenal. And you put 3 of them out there and you have one at star. That's a really strong defensive unit. And then the next group is great. Like I'm really excited about this. Mark Orfe is going to have a lot of fun this year.
Yeah. Excited about the corner room. I think you're going to see same thing you saw with Grayson Littleton and K. Phillips. You're going to see from Samari Matthews. I think he's going to push, even as a young guy. Now he might not break the rotation because you got a top 4, but I think that's a very talented room, and they can get it done. On the perimeter. I'm not worried about that.
And the nickel mix.
Yeah.
You have nickel flexibility. You have Littleton, Mack, Kobe. I think has nickel traits if he'll allow such a thing. And so I feel really good about the nickel and corner spots. I think you have NFL guys all throughout this lineup, and I think you have guys that can play man and do match quarters and stuff like that. So love the corner room, safety room. My only thing here, and people push back on it, I would have liked a veteran safety in coverage, and he could have been more depth. Jelani's a hell of an athlete. He struggled sometimes in the all-22 in the defensive control structure, picking the wrong side and letting this guy go. That was an issue. Now, Jelani McDonald is a player that's developed well. He's smart. He's crazy athlete. And then he gets Muschamp and Gideon. So this room, I'm not hearing the development on offensive line arguments. I'm hearing the development at safety arguments. So I think all of these guys can jump maybe as a stopgap and older safety. But this is not a room I'm worried about. That would have been on the list of portal priorities, like, number 7 or 8. That would get you to an A+ in some scenarios with me. But overall, I feel good about safety as well, especially with the guys coaching this room.
I feel good about the guys coaching the room. I'm looking at the body types in the safety room. I think McDonald, if we get match coverage and somebody has to cover somebody down the field, who on the list do you feel comfortable with outside of McDonald, right? I mean, I like Jonah, but then he's got baseball. Like, I see a lot of hard-hitting center field type safeties outside of McDonald. But if you get a one-on-one matched up against a slot because you got match coverage, I think that's where my worry comes in is can they turn into that corner and turn their hips and go cover? Derek Williams is still trying to become the player he was. I think this is my worry. I just got to see them actually do it because Phil Simi, Zealous Hicks, they're like safeties who like to hit and come downhill. They're not known for coverage guys. Jordan Johnson for Bill, I think he's a terrific athlete, but I just got to see it on the field because everybody else is more of that center field type of maybe playing the robber role of a safety versus having to cover downfield.
I just think Jelani coming back makes this huge, and then Derek Williams coming back. You don't want to lose a high floor player like that off your roster. I know he's still got the injury coming back from the 2024 season, but when I see more names on the left, or the same amount of names on the left side of this as on the right, makes me feel a lot better. I would not have liked for that room to be as inexperienced as it was after Taft graduated.
Experience counts for a lot at that position, and getting McDonald and Williams back is really important. So yeah, just a small critique that I have for safety, but otherwise I feel really good about the DBs overall, and I feel really good about the coaching in that room. Joe, you're gonna have to finish us out here, man. Kickers and punters, dude.
Man. All right, Spedic, his 50+ numbers aren't great. It's based off his freshman season at Ohio. Good kicker. You don't have to rely on a freshman kicker. Chimento, experienced punter. I don't remember his numbers off the top of my head. Good punter. You don't have to rely on a freshman punter. Trey DeBoot, you don't have to rely on a freshman long snapper. Yay. I think you check all the boxes that you need. If your goal is to not have to rely on freshmen and let those guys redshirt, that's fine. We've seen some churn there, but I think Texas is like, let's maybe not let inexperience be something that undoes our season on fourth down. At some point, those guys got to mature and they got to start playing some freshmen, or maybe they just don't want to keep buying kickers every year. But yeah, good players. Helps you sleep at night.
Yep. All right. Some of y'all are asking questions that we hit earlier in the show. We've gone through every position. So if you have a position question that was higher up on this chart here, we talked about it earlier in the show. All righty, everyone. That's what we're looking like. Still got to finish the portal officially, right? But we can kind of see how this is shaping up and what we think will be a team strength and what might not be a team strength next year. Everyone, I want to see you over on InsideTexas.com. It's a wonderful website. And you can get 50% off the Ultimate Fan Bundle right now. Inside Texas, On3, and Rivals all together. Excellent, excellent value. Everyone, tune in for the rest of the shows on the slate today and also enjoy the national championship. That should be a really fun time. This was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, y'all.